All right, awesome, and we're back. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. Super excited to have you all here. Here, Tanner Barris with Marcus Harkis, joined today by a guest that perhaps has driven further than any of our other guests, Jeff Brinkman of Superior Cannabis. Welcome.
Yes, thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming out. Really excited to talk to you today about your brand, talk a little bit about the legislature and some of the changes that are going on. But first, just to give people a little bit of background, I've been seeing you at events going back to like 2018, 2019, but tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to the cannabis industry.
Well, I coached wrestling, really what got me into the cannabis industry. Obviously, I think we all dabbled a tad before that. But when I started coaching wrestling and when I had kids in sports, I kind of faded out, right? And when I came back, or when I was getting to the end of my coaching career, and when you're a wrestling coach, you tend to wrestle a lot. And I look at me, I wrestled big kids, obviously. And I realized that, I've got some aches and pains that I didn't used to have, and really started looking into CBD instead of, I was going through 1,000 milligrams of ibuprofen, and then I'd switched to acetaminophen, and then they eventually just didn't work at all. And so I had to find something different. And really, I tried the CBD, and it seemed to work well. And then when I started looking for just better quality products, it was just transformative. I mean, things I'd been suffering for years just kind of melted away slightly. So, and then it just got me back into, once my kids graduated, it just got me back into focusing on cannabis again. And such a helpful plant. All the cannabinoids together, we think are just really that kind of that essential element is whole plant science. So that's what really kind of what we're based on is we've actually worked with a company out of Wisconsin that has developed Whole Spectrum, which is some of the broadest spectrum cannabinoids available today. So we're pretty fortunate to have met up with them and with that, developing products along the way and then trying to keep, obviously, those products legal and then enter the rec market as well.
Very cool.
So you started Superior Cannabis in 2018 in Minnesota's early days of the modern hemp cultivation. What motivated you to do that, and what were the first months like?
The motivation was really that pain management aspect, and I had talked to my partners back then. Tom Cotter's my partner now, but we had three. But just as you well know, we, the ups and downs with the industry. We had one partner, a great partner, that decided, hey, this has got too many shifts for me, and I'm not comfortable with it. And you want to work, you want him to be comfortable with what he's doing. And so now it's Tom and I, but we really got into it just talking about pain management. We're both, in our 50s. We're the old guys, right? But we both learned that, sports throughout your lifetime, you become a cannabis fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think one thing that both of us can probably relate to is through the years of activism, of talking to people through this, there's so many people that I think find, hey, cannabis helps me in this one way in life, be it pain management, be it appetite, be it, anxiety or whatever, be it, and say like, wow, I just want to share this with others. And it's always cool meeting people that are in the industry because they found some role for cannabis in their life and said like, hey, this is something that I really want to share with other people.
Absolutely. And I think, in determining partners, we sat down and literally had the conversation like, why do we want to be in this? And it was to help people. And when it isn't that, then we're out, Of course, I also like to imbibe in, not only CBD, but the THC side of it too. So to me, but that's also, to me, a health component. I'm not always looking at liquor as my, social lubrication. And I think the low dose market here that we have in Minnesota has just been a blessing to destigmatize. I think we've all talked about that and how, man, I've got people that wouldn't touch cannabis in their lifetime, willing to sit down and have a cocktail,
absolutely.
cannabis cocktail. And how fun is that,
Breakthroughs.
Yeah, I talked about this on an earlier podcast, but it was cool going on a vacation up sort of in near Duluth, but a little bit north, like Two Harbors, and seeing just the adaptation of how cannabis really went from you don't really see it much around to it's everywhere. You stop at like a random restaurant on the side of the highway and they have their alcohol products. They've got, their pretzels or cheese curds, but they also have just some incredible cannabis products that are locally made. And that's really incredible.
And I think too, for a lot of folks that aren't drinking alcohol, the old days, it's a NA beer, it's a water, it's a soda. And now we have something where they can kind of join everybody and really enjoy themselves as well and be an adult, you know. Yeah. So that to me is just kind of a fun thing, but it's also got some health benefits, we all know. And then too, just kind of even the calories. I mean, some of these great beverages are, 200 maybe max calories. And if it was say a margarita, you might have 400 calories at a restaurant. So, you can kind of look at all those different aspects of social social destigmatization, health benefits, and just people kind of being, accepted, into a brewery where they would never have a beer, but they're sure up for a cannabis drink.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we saw that just yesterday.
And I do feel like we work with Blacklist up in Duluth. Just great people to work with in our seltzers, and then we work with Spring Grove Soda down in southeast Minnesota to do our 2 sodas. And along with that, you kind of had to feel them out to see where they're at, And they all thought, like, man, why aren't we doing this? So I mean, it wasn't just our idea. I think a lot of people were kind of looking forward to the future already. So to kind of, this is kind of like the movement to open things up. And I think, being that common beverage item really helps people kind of accept it.
So it was a really long road to get here, as I'm sure you know. You touched on sort of some of the changes that have come about in our industry. I wanted to ask you what it's been like. I mean, there are a few people in our industry that have truly ridden that wave from CBD to Delta 8 to Delta 10s and everything else to Delta 9 to fully legalized Delta 9 to whatever the next chapter brings. I mean, just what has that been like?
As you guys know, it's been just an up and down rodeo. And I think some of the things the state has done has not been obviously industry enhancement on the hemp side. But, we moved to the THC side. I think that was a needed, like we had to get to legalization at some way, shape, or form. So, fighting kind of the ups and downs of the market to this point, I think it has been challenging. These shops, small makers, small craft makers such as, say like cookie makers. I don't want to mention companies, but a few, there's a lot of small market craft folks that got into this business to be craft and to kind of maintain craft. But yet we're kind of pushing to this bigger industry, and I feel like we're leaving some of those folks behind because they're looking at small batches, and we haven't set anything up for somebody that can make 100 units or 200 units. And as you guys know, some of those 100 unit batches are the best batches that you've ever had, whether it's a cheesecake or
for sure. Yeah, we've had people that come on and talked about, I make my product, I really think it's of high quality, but if you expect me to test literally every single thing that is going out the door to the full spectrum that perhaps some interpret the law to be, that's an increasingly higher cost as the day goes on and as more processing goes on. And it definitely can be a barrier to, I think, some of the small people that really found a niche in this industry.
And two, I don't think you bring those people back. We sit there and talk, we want you to be in the legal. We want you the legal market to accept what you're doing, but we're telling them we're not going to accept your way. You know? And I think testing is very important. Testing, especially our components that go in. So, but to me, if you test your distillate and you can show through chain of custody that your distillate went to this cookie and you have satisfied, say, the health department's requirements for making cookies, why test everything? And I do agree, obviously, sending a COA on your cookie at the end, but, you know, a full panel for flour, I kind of feel is a little bit.
We've had questions a lot asked of us, like batch, the term that has sort of come up in this new temporary rules is when you're looking at a batch, is that like this is one specific, like this went into the oven at the same time and came out at the same time? Or is it like this is the same recipe, same input, same process? Really, what is that testing minimum that needs to be met for it to be a legally compliant product? And I think, I mean, people are not alone in the industry in saying like, what are the rules? Like, what do I actually have to do to get this product on the shelf and be compliant? Even if they're trying their damnedest. I mean, it's been a roller coaster for sure.
It has, and I think that's the interpretation that most labs, and when I say or co-packers look at is, you know, batch to them is your end product run. So if it's like our mango gummies, if we send it in, you know, our distillate and getting those gummies made, it's that set is the requirement for the full panel. I mean, that's our impression, and that's kind of our lab's impression.
For sure.
But there is some room for interpretation, and I think, too, folks that are new are not going to always see every little detail in this bill. That's, you know, we've all looked or listened to about the complexity of the bill, and I feel like, you know, some new entrepreneurs or people that are, you know, English is a second language may misinterpret that stuff unless they have an attorney looking at every single thing they're doing. So, you know, too, I think with legalization, my vision is regulate like alcohol, and that might be loose to some people, but I've seen alcohol do some things to people that cannabis will never do. And not that I don't like alcohol, I'll have a beverage here or there, right? But I think we're looking at this as something different than what it really is. And to me, it's yes, it's a medicine, but it's also I feel like it's a healthy social way to, whether you want to say get intoxicated, get high, whatever, but
take the edge off.
Yeah, life
take the edge
enhancer.
off. And like you say, you know, I'll go home and I'll have a nice 10 milligram beverage and maybe a gummy, and I'm good. But you know, if that was 10 years ago, I might have 6 beers or 8 beers, you know, to get that same kind of relaxation. The difference, obviously, you guys know, is I'm up the next day ready to roll, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what from House File 100 do you think the framers got correct? In other words, what part of the law should Minnesotans fight hard to protect? And on the other hand, are there things from the final version that you think should be changed?
I'll tell you, I think the cannabinoid limitations on the CBD side, I think, are problematic. I think that we're taxing. I'll give you an example. Our average age for CBD consumers is about 68 years old. So if you think about that, we just planted a 10% tax on those people that really aren't consuming recreationally. They're consuming health-wise, supplemental-wise. I'm not going to say medical-wise because we aren't. But, you know, those people are consuming for a different reason. I feel like that should be a different segment. And then limitations in those, you know, we start talking 20 milligrams CBD, 20 milligrams CBG, and then 0.5 milligrams of minor cannabinoids. And we all know, like, I mean, I want as many cannabinoids going into my oils as possible, right?
Yeah.
And also I want, you know, availability of high dosing CBD, high dosing CBG, and not ridiculous, but we shouldn't be stripping away things that people have depended on for, I mean, literally years, right?
Yeah, well, and there was like this pop-up for a while of like CBN really becoming a cannabinoid that people were saying, maybe this does have a role in my life. And then sort of that got a punch to the kneecap of, no, you're not going to do that anymore, unless it's 0.5 milligram per serving.
Correct.
Max.
And to me, I mean, the net effect that had is really a market shift to medical. And I know I got some blowback early on last session, but like when we looked at kind of what the bill was producing and then kind of the sourcing of the bill language sometimes, it got concerning. And those concerns were, I think, realized as, hey, there's stuff here that's being stripped out for really no apparent reason, right? I mean, I don't know that, tinctures should have been stripped out as a, standard product for people. Those in medical knows. I mean, they know it's effective. They've actually poured a ton of money into CBD and THC combinations, different ratios, along with all the other CBG, CBN, and then those minor cannabinoids. So to me, I'm like, if we're going to legalize, I don't want our consumers that we deal with every day to be stripped of things that are helpful to them or sent to somewhere else that's a multi-state operator or national operator just because I can't produce it now in Minnesota. Yeah. So, I mean, those things were concerning. I think, too, I think for small business, I don't want to be super controversial, but you start looking at labor peace agreements. Those things where you have a labor peace agreement with a union as a condition of your application. I don't think that's right. Small business shouldn't be tamped right off the bat. Maybe if you grow to a certain size, but right off the bat to be a union shop, I don't know if a lot of small businesses are going to be able to stick with that. Am I against unions? Absolutely not. I think there's a time and a place for them, especially for worker safety, and then fairness, obviously, within the workforce. So I think when we say things, people automatically sometimes twist it if they don't feel like they align with you, and they reframe it as something else, as anti-union. No, I'm not anti-union, but it's tough to make a go as a small business. And if we're going to be in a craft industry, we should probably focus on small business.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair, especially when you look at other industries that do evaluate large and small businesses differently and look at some of the rules and regulations around them, perhaps treating small business a little bit more lightly to allow them to operate. And I'll be curious to see, we've seen a couple different measures come out in the legislature. It's still the early days, so we're waiting to see really what fully comes out. But I'll be interested to see how our program is tweaked over the coming years to really either benefit small business and to allow them to continue and thrive. And I think the way that the intention was of consumers and the community, or quite the opposite. And I think that's all of our fears.
Right. And do you remember, Marcus, I think you were there. We were sitting in finance committee, and I'm pretty sure you were there, but
probably
I went in and I listened to, I think it was in finance committee, and they were like, so we have this residency requirement in this, and we'll probably get sued on it. So why don't we just erase the resident requirement? And I was like, whoa. And nobody questioned it. Nobody debated it. And they passed it. So I'm like, oh, now we have copy and paste cannabis from other states, which we saw now. But that was and that was not a well-attended hearing. So there weren't a lot of people there, but I was like, that was a big one.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Because we were always advocating for a Minnesota-based Minnesota cannabis market, not dominated by out-of-state MSOs.
But wasn't it interesting that, that was hardly debated whatsoever?
There were so many issues that were hardly debated. I just think most people were overwhelmed. Like, I can't keep up. I just got to focus on what I'm interested in.
Oh, even internally trying to share out with people. Like, I think the first couple of days of the session, it's like, oh, all right, there's a hearing scheduled next week. Like, be ready for that. Then it's like, all right, maybe there's 2 scheduled for next week. And it's like, all right, there's 1 tomorrow. Be ready. And then very quickly it was like, all right, there's 300 pages of changes to this bill, and they're debating it tomorrow. And I guess just be ready to talk about it. Good luck.
Here we go. Authors didn't even get to read.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we were all in this cycle of reading till 1 o'clock in the morning and then racing down the hall in the morning to find your room. And I kind of feel like, man, was it almost like just so much thrown at you that you just couldn't catch all these pieces.
It's like walking in a blizzard.
Stopping at 3 snowflakes, right?
Well, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on sort of what moving forward the state can do to help support small business. But first, we're going to take a very short break.
Great.
Oh, it's getting cutthroat now.
Hey guys, what are you up to?
Oh, we're just practicing for the Canna Connect 4 tournament, getting ready.
The Canna Connect 4 tournament? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's the expo. All the brands are going to get together. They're going to compete in Connect 4. We want to show that we're the best in the industry, so we're practicing. And Marcus is getting really good.
Like Northern Lights, like you guys think Canna Connect 4 is like a Connect 4 tournament? Oh! Guys, Canna Connect 4 is a conference and expo. It's not a Connect 4 tournament. We're bringing together like 20 to 25 brands to give out like samples and education and knowledge about the Minnesota cannabis industry. It has nothing to do with Connect 4.
But we just haven't heard anything about it.
That's my fault, and I apologize. But we're getting the word out about Canna Connect 4 starting today, and tickets are on sale. In fact, I'm giving away 150 free tickets. Like, you guys got to get your tickets quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
guess we should stop practicing and go get our tickets.
Let's get the hell out of here and grab our tickets.
All right, let's go.
April 5th through the 7th, Modest Brewing and the Wilderness. Get your tickets online, cannaconnectmn.com.
All right, and we're back. So we were talking a little bit about House File 100, some of the things that went into the program that we have, or that we will have very soon here in Minnesota. I wanted to ask you, you have a unique perspective as a small business owner here in Minnesota that's seen many of the changes throughout cannabis generally. Looking forward to the next chapter of legalization, adult use or continuing on in that low potency hemp side, really what kind of supports could the state provide that would actually help support you as a business owner? I know there's talks about like grant money going out or training programs or sort of all of the like, but from someone who's actually on the ground doing the business, what actually would be helpful if the government came and said, hey, I'm here from the government, I'm here with X.
That scared me when you started.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here from the government.
Yeah, the worst thing to hear.
I'm innocent.
I think that, the one thing is, as a small business owner, is we are quick to adapt as long as we know what the plan is, right? And I think, there's, and this is kind of happening now where we're having some, I'll say it's like an informational meeting, but there's no Q&A. There's no public square. And I thought, if we're going to better this for what we call craft industry and stakeholders, we should probably invite them to the meetings and ask or allow them to ask questions. And then being able to be predictability, like implement predictability into this program so that, we're not turning inventories. I mean, we gave away tinctures that were, expensive, and we just gave them away. And because they were, by a certain date, they were illegal, and they were kind of not illegal, and it was gray area.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't have a great track record with gray area. We had a cease and desist for CBD, and it was Delta 8 beverages, and they shut us down. And we noticed, we had talked to the same office about, well, medical cannabis is selling the same potency gummies, CBD gummies, and why aren't they shut down? Well, they got a letter of information. So I think, too, that level playing field, and that level playing field also means enforcement and guidance. So if they are not enforcing, but they're guiding medical to do the right thing, then why don't you help guide us instead of just enforcement? And maybe they've taken a little different approach now. I'm hoping that happens, but let's be predictable. Let's be equal on enforcement, and treat people equally. And when it becomes, they're a big player, that's a lot of work. These guys are easy to enforce upon. Those things don't add up, and I think people do see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for so long in our industry, it's been like medical has been big and up here, and then all of the hemp and CBD and low potency THC has all sort of been down here. And I think the hope of House File 100, and we'll see if it actually shakes out that way, is to sort of balance that out and say, all right, yeah, you were like the big untouchable medical giants before, but now you're just another cannabis business. Right. And there's other cannabis businesses here that are regulated just like you.
And yes, and competition. Let's may I talk to that a little
Please
bit?
say, absolutely.
So the low dose hemp and the hemp market in general in Minnesota was recognized between Vireo and one of those companies purchasing them was Verano, and then Verano bailed out, right? One of the reasons Verano stated that they were not going to purchase Vireo is because of the competition from the hemp market in Minnesota specifically. So if you are a company or an MSO that has that kind of problem, what are you going to attack in legislation to hinder hemp companies? And look what happened. We got, was it 1,000 mentions of hemp in the bill? In a marijuana bill?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was
So-
definitely some radical changes to how hemp
Yeah,
works.
and I mean, that language that really, and obviously we know there were safety issues on the hemp side, right? And those things did have to be addressed. Synthetics, super high potency, ridiculous stuff, candy looking things.
for sure.
Nobody wants that except for whoever was selling them, right? But you know, the industry as a whole wants to be responsible. I don't want my customer coming back once and then telling everybody or having a horrible experience with their child or themselves.
Sure.
I want these people coming back and seeing me. We're a neighborhood store. We've got a great customer base in Austin, Minnesota. We've got a great customer base in Duluth. And I want those people coming back. I want those relationships. Those are people who support us, and we want to help with health regimens. We want to help with them relaxing. We want to help them have fun, right? So when you're connected with that community, you want what's best for your consumers. And so I don't think there's any doubt about that. But the attack on kind of hemp products, I mean, we know where that came from. And, you know, if you just look at, you know,
You know, I think we can like look at other states. Like I think Florida's a great example because we're seeing some really
Certainly.
recent changes happening there,
Certainly.
where they're looking at, hey, they've had low potency hemp for a pretty long time now,
yes.
and they're looking at kneecapping it to like 2 milligrams per serving, and I think like
it's 2.5.
yeah, and like 10, 20 milligrams per package, like, and it's even lower than here in Minnesota.
Yes.
Um,
And you think about that, who, you know, those people that are longstanding, I did watch a couple of the people testify, and one female, she was probably in her mid 60s, and she was talking about, you know, even Delta 8. She was like, if I find it and it's tested, this has helped me like no other thing has, and I pay a fraction of what I do at the medical market. And I don't think we can be tone deaf to that, because those are important things that are important to people. But product safety, if we can, and that should, I think, be the focus, is product safety and not so much these ultra low limits, because we know what the ultra low limits are for. It's to drive people to the medical market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the not excluding people, but allowing it in parallel. It's, you know, not saying low potency edible needs to go away when we have adult use, but saying what can it look like being in the state of Minnesota where we have dispensaries, but we also have liquor stores or restaurants that sell cannabis products. Like that's, I think that's pretty cool.
I do too. And it really is a, you know, it's a futuristic legal market. And if we do it right, it's going to be great. But I feel like if we do it wrong, we're going to drive some people out of the, you know, some people might, if they're not taking our products, they might just quit and suffer, you know. And I don't feel that that's what we should be doing, is driving people kind of out of the market, when we should be like, no, we want to fit your needs. That's really kind of the key to keeping all the cannabinoids.
I love that.
So we talk a lot about, you know, the Twin Cities here with the Minnesota Cannabis College, and we were excited to partner with you a few months ago in the Duluth event. For those who have not had the opportunity to experience, what's the scene like in Duluth and in Alexandria?
I'll tell you, in Duluth, we don't have a location in Alexandria, but
okay.
that's
Excuse
all right. Duluth is, and we do. So I live in southern Minnesota, and our shop is in obviously Duluth, but all our kids live up in Duluth. So we're doing this. But like, Austin I'll just explain Austin first. Small community, a bit conservative, and I could not believe, honestly, when we opened our doors, it was like everybody loved us. And that was such a surprise. But then again, I'm like, there were so many people coming out and like, I've always kind of thought about, doing something different. And, and once they start like seeing the plants, we've invited them out to our farms. So we do a September Hemp and Food Health Day for folks to come down and check out the farms, and then also hear about healthy food alternatives from kind of the commercial stuff, right? So it to me it's a little bit holistic maybe. Mm-hmm. And then we talk to them about organic and regenerative processes and growing, because we're the only certified regenerative and organic company in the state, and I'm talking both together. So and with that goes up to Duluth. We're a water quality certified farm. Largest body of water in the United States is pretty important, right? Yeah. And so I think overuse of fertilizers, if you talk to some growers, they're like, more is better, and we're like, well, is it? Or do you want to just build up microbes in your soil and let them do the work, right?
Absolutely.
And if you can do that right and do it sustainably, you're taking care of the water. You're taking care of energy needs. If you're growing outdoors, I really encourage people to, even if you're an indoor grower, throw some seeds outside and have some fun this summer, this spring. Start them inside to about a foot, and then get them outside, harden them off. But
we'll just throw in a quick gardening tip here. If you were just to like recommend when people start a seed indoors, is that like early March you might want to start it inside?
I like to do, so when I put in I start a few seeds every year. So I started 36 hemp strains at tax day, April 15th.
Perfect. There we go.
And then by usually I'll get them first week of June, we'll replant. I use about a 10-day window for hardening. So if you don't know about hardening off plants, read that very carefully. Oh, yeah. They get sensitive. So that first day, they're going out for like 30 to 45 minutes in the full sun. You cannot match the sunlight with any indoor light. Doesn't matter. You got to get them out in the sun and just give them a little dash of it every day. And then usually around that 10-day, 14-day period, you can get them outside and get them solid in the ground. And I'll tell you what, they love the existing soil as long as it's good soil. And there's nothing that compares to outdoors and sunlight. Big time terpenes, big time flavonoids. It's scientifically proven. But not saying indoor isn't a premium product for sure, but you can get there with outdoor, and it's just a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, scientifically looking at like the trichoma heads, like outdoors, you just get so much larger, bulkier heads, and it's the sun is a powerful tool.
It is, and that life cycle is literally the perfect light cycle, right? Mm-hmm. It's been around for a while.
Yeah,
I've seen hundreds of strains over the years, and some of the best stuff I ever had was outdoor Humboldt County cannabis.
Some of it was even seedy and kind of ugly looking, and oh man, it's some, and it is kind of, and I do think Humboldt obviously had some hemp. Like I've had some really nice stuff from Humboldt County that had some seeds in it. And they, they of course weren't happy with the hemp growers, but I think we've got to find a solution, and triploids are probably going to be the outdoor solution for sure.
Oh, for reals. Oh, that's such an interesting. I love hemp for so many reasons. It introduced me to so many cannabinoids that I think I would have ignored had I just been like an adult use straight market.
Right.
But looking at the science of cannabis generally and how our cultivation practices can change outdoors, indoors, I mean, it's really a cool plant.
And they will evolve. And I think really just the ability to be legal and play with these plants outside and inside. I mean, where, you're kind of looking around if you're playing with them before that, but now it's like, okay, I can mess around a little bit, and it's kind of relaxing, and it's a freeing feeling for sure.
Yeah.
So this is work for you. This is a business. We've seen you out here since 2018, one of the first ones who was very vocal and present and grinding. And you just mentioned the word play. So, like, how much of the work is play?
Plants are play. Work is at the desk, and work is at the computer. This stuff is awesome. Events are awesome. But, yeah, when I get in front of a screen, man, it just...
Yeah, we've had other people come on and say, like, if I could just grow cannabis and then just go and talk to people about it and give it to them,
right?
That'd be pretty sweet. It's all the selling and everything else that gets in the way.
But I'll tell you, one of the things that I think that first really taught me about how important this is, man, you have those first in-depth conversations. It was Tom and I working the shop initially, and man, you get in some deep level conversations and you start helping somebody out and they will never forget you and I will never forget them. And it's like that builds connections. And that's where I'm like, hey, you know, this oil that you take every day, like I'm going to fight for that. I'm going to be the guy. And people kind of wonder like, God, you know, it's just oils, you know, we're getting THC. And I'm like, well, that's great. I'm glad. But I want all these cannabinoids. And it's because our customers, my family, our friends need them.
I love that. So we're sort of in the, I mean, man, 2024 is flying by. But it's sort of looking forward to the rest of the year. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of changes over the next couple of months, next year, next however long, continuing onward. What are you looking forward to in the future? Sort of what does the next couple of months bring to Superior, bring for yourself? Well,
I think we're going to, you know, I know they talked potentially early licensing. I think there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had there. And to, you know, I think our hope is that legislators are really going to look at what they told the folks in Minnesota, as they said, equity, small business, craft oriented. And I think we need to hold them to those standards. And I don't really feel like, you know, you see these groups that we're meeting with and networking with, and you see and you talk to people that are great growers and want to get into a micro license or they want to get into a mezzo. And we should be fitting that. We should be inviting those people into this industry and not finding roadblocks for them. And then, too, we shouldn't be just looking at opening doors to out-of-state operators and then rolling out the red carpet. And we've been here. We've been pushing the market. People that have been in the black market have been here. They deserve to be in the legal space. And, you know, I think we need to follow those channels and hold them accountable for what they told the public. And within that, I feel like public squares, we should have Q&A. And we shouldn't be just getting talked to and and then they leave the room. I mean, we've seen enough. All of these politicians tend to do that. They come out and give their talking points and they walk away. And I'm like, I like to ask questions. That's how I'm built.
For sure. Well, I mean, truly, thank you for the work that you're doing, because I think there's a lot of people that are in that same spot of, I'm trying to run my business. That alone is taking 80 hours per week of my time. Following along with what some people at the Capitol are doing is sort of difficult at times. So just thank you for raising your voice and saying, from that business perspective, this is tough.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think, too, I really appreciate you guys you're keeping these issues on the table and keeping them in front of an audience that, you know, normally they're not learning some of these things. And I think that's such an important outreach aspect. And so I really appreciate the work you guys are doing. And, too, you know, showing people how to grow cannabis and experiment with new products and things like that. That's a piece of kind of enveloping and hugging people that normally wouldn't be a part of this space, bringing them in and really kind of welcoming them to the community. So that's awesome work, guys.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. We like to grow plants here, grow community, and, you know, So people have the sausage gets made of
And that's
starting
what
up
it's
a cannabis
about.
program.
That's what it's about.
And enjoy the product.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
definitely.
So just sort of wrapping up today, if people want to learn a little bit more about your brand or follow along with some of the stuff that you're doing, where would you recommend to go and
Yeah,
find them?
we're if you look up Superior Cannabis on Facebook and obviously Instagram, and then also at superiorcannabis.com. But also our shops are in 125 North Main in Austin, Minnesota, and then 339 Canal Park Drive in Duluth. Stop in, say hello.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for coming in the
Yes,
studio today.
appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
Good time. Thank you.
We'll be right back.